On an island in the Caribbean, a bank sold safety. The building looked official. The name sounded global. The brochures promised careful management, strong returns, and access to a world of finance far larger than the island itself. People deposited their savings because they believed the bank was doing the slow, serious work of protecting money. But much of the money was not being invested as promised. It was being used to support the image of the bank, the businesses of its owner, his lifestyle, and the illusion that the institution was stronger than it was. For years, new money helped satisfy old promises. Statements showed stability. Returns looked dependable. The bank's reputation did the work of collateral. Then the world stopped believing. In 2009, regulators moved against Stanford International Bank and the network around its owner, R. Allen Stanford. The collapse exposed an alleged and later criminally proven investment fraud that had operated across the United States, Antigua and Barbuda, Venezuela, Mexico, and other countries. The first shock was financial. The second was personal. People who had trusted the institution discovered that their statements were not the same as their money. Retirees, families, charities, businesses, and investors across more than 100 countries had to ask how a bank could look safe while billions were being diverted. Buried Ledger. Episode 18, The Bank on the Island. This is the story of the Stanford financial fraud, a crime that used the language of security to hide the absence of it. It is not a story about complicated finance alone. At its center is a simple promise. Give us your money. We will keep it safe and make it grow. The promise was delivered through offices, advisors, glossy brochures, corporate names, sports sponsorships, island prestige, and the public confidence of one man. The loss was delivered through frozen accounts, unanswered calls, collapsing businesses, court filings, and a recovery process that continued long after the criminal trial ended. For a global audience, the case begins in places many listeners recognize as destinations rather than financial jurisdictions. Antigua and Barbuda is known internationally for beaches, sailing, resorts, and tourism. Houston is known for energy, medicine, business, and a large global population. Memphis, Miami, Caracas, and other cities entered the Stanford network through offices, advisors, and customers. The fraud moved through the same international connections that make modern finance possible. Money crossed borders faster than ordinary people could understand the structure carrying it. The island was not a backdrop chosen for mystery. Antigua was where Stanford International Bank was based, and the location mattered. Offshore banking can offer legitimate services, but it can also create distance between depositors, regulators, courts, and the institutions holding their money. Distance does not create fraud. It can make fraud harder to see. An investor in one country may speak to an advisor in another, purchase a product issued by a bank based on an island, read financial statements prepared somewhere else, and rely on regulators whose authority stops at a border. Each part can appear formal while the complete picture remains hidden. That fragmentation became part of Stanford's protection. R. Allen Stanford built his public identity through finance, business, and high-profile activity. He was not selling an anonymous online product. He presented himself as the founder and chairman of a large financial empire. His company sponsored events and projects. His name appeared on buildings and institutions. The public image suggested permanence. The image mattered because trust is often borrowed from visible success. A person sees an elegant office and assumes competent management. A customer sees an executive beside a famous athlete or public official and assumes legitimacy. A bank with international offices feels more reliable than a business operating from a single room. These signals are not evidence of solvency. They are evidence of presentation. Stanford understood presentation. His central product was the Certificate of Deposit, or CD. In ordinary language, a CD is a promise from a bank. You place money with the bank for a period, and the bank pays you interest in return. The bank uses the deposited funds for its business and investments. The customer is not supposed to become a detective of every loan, bond, or property purchase behind the product. The customer relies on the bank's representations and on the rules meant to supervise it. Stanford International Bank sold CDs through a network connected to Stanford Group Company and other Stanford businesses. The CDs were marketed as safe investments with attractive returns. The United States Department of Justice said the bank owed depositors more than $8 billion by 2008. That number is not the same as the amount Stanford was criminally convicted of misappropriating. The criminal case described a 20-year scheme and approximately $7 billion misappropriated from the bank. The SEC's civil complaint and later filings used figures around $8 billion for the fraudulent CD program. The figures describe different accounting and legal frames. They should not be blended carelessly. The underlying reality is clear: the bank's obligations to depositors were far larger than the assets available to satisfy them. The bank's brochures claimed that the CD proceeds were invested conservatively, in liquid and diversified assets managed or overseen. You just heard the first part of this one. The rest of the episode is on Patreon right now. Subscribers get every new episode a full week before it lands anywhere else. Come finish the story at patreon.com/cw/storiesbymia.